What was the moment you knew your relationship was over? My ex and I were not living together, but he had the key to my place. I told him that I was going to go see my parents for the weekend, but then changed my mind last minute because I started feeling sick. I forgot to tell him and just went home after work and went to bed. I woke up around 10 p.m. to get a glass of water, and while I was in the kitchen I heard someone fumbling at the door with the lock. I freaked out because I lived on the 17th floor, so if it was a break-in, I was effed. All of a sudden he walks in, dragging a tipsy girl in behind him. I just stood there while he tried to make up some sort of excuse as to why he was there. The girl was pretty shocked, too. When after 7 years, a particularly cold conversation, and with tears in my eyes I said, "I just want you to love me," and she said, "Well, I don't, and don't you feel pathetic for having to ask?" This was 5 years ago now, and I am doing so much better. The best love is self-love. 3 weeks before we broke up, she described the kind of guy she would date if we broke up. She described her coworker, and I honestly thought they had hooked up by this point. To my delight, he was a good noodle and never wanted to be more than work friends with her. When he found out she left me to be with him, he reached out and told me he was sorry for everything even though it wasn't his fault. I told him I'm not holding anything against him, but thanked him for being a good person. She had picked on me for months, constantly criticizing everything. I couldn't do anything right. I tried. I kissed her ass and apologized for every single perceived wrongdoing. After months, one day I told her, calmly, "You're mean to me." She blew up. Veins came out and she did that weird growl/yelling thing and told me she'd cut my throat and burn down my house. I left with my kids to my parents' house. Came back the next day, she was gone. Haven't seen her since. And strangely, my anxiety is all but gone. Once a month, my ex-wife would have to work one shift that was 2 hours later than her usual. On a normal day, she'd get home about 30 minutes before me. The days that she would work late became my favorite days, because that meant I actually had a chance to relax and unwind at the end of the workday instead of immediately having a dump truck of negativity unloaded on me when I walked in the door. I was engaged to my girlfriend of 5.5 years, 3.5 dating, 2 engaged. I noticed that out of nowhere she started acting very suspicious and more cautious of her phone around me and not wanting me to be around her when she was playing games with people on Discord, which I didn't really care about. I knew something was up when I would tell her I loved her and to have a good day when she would leave for work, and she would just kinda smile and nod. One day I was cleaning up around the house and noticed that she had left her computer open and saw some messages between her and a guy she plays games with talking about some things that I would rather not repeat. When I confronted her about it, I was gaslit and made out to be crazy. I knew then it was the beginning of the end. A year and a half later I finally had enough evidence and she admitted to cheating on me for a year and a half. 6 months before our wedding. I'm still not over it after a year and a half later, and I genuinely don't think I'll be able to trust the same again. When I saw how she completely changed when her boss was around. She became much more pleasant, flirty, and amenable. That's when I realized the only reason she was dating me was in hopes it would make her boss jealous enough to leave his wife for her. Everything starts an argument. Even when you prep yourself to not argue, and yet it just ends up that way anyhow. I came from a pretty contentious family upbringing and married a woman where every issue was the hill to die on, not saying that oftentimes I could be just as stubborn. After 20 years of marriage and 2 children, it was over. A few years later I meet a lovely woman and was astonished after 2 years we had never had a heated exchange. I didn't think such a thing was possible. Boy, when you find out both parties are willing to give some ground for the other person, great things happen. I was at my best friend's wedding. When he saw his bride walking down the aisle, he had a grin so big it looked like it could have exploded right off of his face. He was so happy to be marrying this person. And when I thought about my now ex-girlfriend, I realized that I just didn't feel that way about her. I will say, when I married my wife, I was grinning like an idiot. The moment he accidentally sent me a text that was supposedly meant for someone else, making plans to hook up at his house. My only response to that was, "Okay, be safe." I added quotes because I suspected that he did this on purpose to try and get me to break up with him, expecting some sort of angry response from me. He didn't get that, although I did get an earful from him a couple weeks down the line about how he never found me attractive physically or romantically. To which I responded, "Okay," and never talked to him again. To this day, I will never understand why some people choose to play games rather than just be upfront. No matter, I'm now happily married to an amazing person. The day my mom passed away, the coroner hadn't even come for her body yet, With zero consideration on how I felt and what I was going through, my ex-fiancé thought it was a great idea and a good time to tell me that he has been cheating on me for the last 6 years, and how sorry he was for it. He wasn't sorry he did it, but he was sorry because the other woman had lied to him about who she really was, and he wanted me to comfort him because he felt betrayed by her. When I promptly broke up with him, he asked, "Wait, is this really goodbye? How could you do this to me now?" When she started being cold to me, and being unsure about our relationship. Then she started talking about this guy from her class. You know the rest. I was lonely whilst being constantly with her. I just hadn't realized that we were living in two different worlds, had different friends and hobbies. All that kept us together was a force of habit. The feeling after the breakup for me was a removal of a suffocating feeling that I'd felt for many years. Truth be told, I wish I was brave and mature enough to have explored and addressed those feelings sooner. With loneliness and anxiety came unhealthy coping and avoidant behavior. He stopped talking to me 3 days into a 3-week holiday. I made the best of it. Once home, the silent treatment continued for another 3 weeks. He rolls over in bed one morning and starts talking like nothing happened. I should have ended it long before, but that was the moment I knew it was over. I'd love to say it was the first time he had done it, but it was a frequent thing, just it had never lasted 6 weeks before. I was on antidepressants already and having counseling, so I did feel like I was going crazy. And no, he never referenced it directly, he didn't ever think it was a big issue. He stopped talking to his own mother once for a year, so 6 weeks was probably getting off lightly in his eyes. When we were arguing for the umpteenth time and I lost the will to continue. I usually begged her to stay, but I just told her to go. Straight up. Don't look back, when it's just an emotional drain being around them. It's not worth keeping the relationship going. The hardest part is letting go of the lingering positive feelings for them, but it's always better in the end. Married for 21 years. The last 10 were devoid of any love, warmth, or caring. I did not want to get divorced and figured this was just the way the rest of my life would be. We were taking our 3rd shot at marriage counseling, and after a few months, my wife says she has to quit counseling because she wants to attend a meditation class at the same time. She had something better to do than work on our marriage. That's when it hit me that she didn't give a damn at all about our marriage, and I decided that I did not want that to be the rest of my life. We're currently 2.5 years into divorce. It's painful and expensive. But personally, I've never been happier. I am leading my best life. So glad I decided to move on. This was a long time ago, but I still remember it vividly. All of our friends were meeting up at a bar, but I had to work. I was able to get off and was at the bar with my friends. Her and her friends showed up, and there was an unmistakable look of disappointment in her face when she saw I was there. That hurt. Me, why do we fight so much? Her, because as long as you're fighting I know you care. Broke up with her on the spot. We had been long distance for a couple of months and I actually felt relieved to be hundreds of miles away from him. He never called me or texted, it was always me who reached out. I got tired of it and started calling less and less. One day, after we hadn't spoken for a few weeks, I called him and he answered and sounded surprised to hear from me. Conversation went, me, hey, it's me. Him, oh, hi? Why are you calling me? Me, no reason. Just to say hi. Him, oh, okay, well I was actually just doing something. Can I call you another day? And after years of awful screaming arguments and stupid games, that's when I knew the relationship was dead. She had cheated on me, but swore it was a mistake and would never happen again. I came over one morning to talk, and her phone rang. It was him. She took the call, and once he realized I was over he said he was coming to kick my ass, as if I had done anything wrong. Never felt so dumb in my life. My last relationship was on the way out and we spoke on the phone where she confessed that she didn't know what she wanted out of life. She added that she couldn't give me what I wanted and gave me her blessing to date other people. Throughout our relationship, her father had terminal cancer and when he died a year into our relationship, she just sort of shut off. It also didn't help that our communication was inconsistent and I never really knew where I stood in the relationship. Still, it was insanely painful and I was broken up mentally for months before meeting my current girlfriend. When she repeatedly slammed her head through the wall claiming a demon was telling her to do it, and then threatened to call the cops and say I beat her up.